2027 budget, Kenyans are keen. Good evening and welcome to TV47 Prime. Now, as attention turns to the 2026-2027 budget, Kenyans are keenly watching what it could mean for their pockets, businesses and the economy. We have this and so much more in this bulletin. My name is Peter Kamau. Our sign interpreter is Catherine Simaloy. Let's get started. Education, security and health emerged as the biggest winners in the Treasury's CS John Mbadi's 4.8 trillion budget, with education receiving a record 784.5 billion shillings, equivalent to about 16% of the national budget. Security agencies also secured some of the largest allocations, including 252.1 billion shillings for defense, 144.7 billion shillings for the National Police Service, and 64.1 billion shillings for the National Intelligence Service. Meanwhile, village elders will now be eligible for a stipend allocation of 3.9 billion shilling as roads and transport lose ground relative to other priority sectors after the government shifted focus to social spending, agriculture, housing and bottom-up economic transformation.
After much praise on the state of the economy.
And I want to turn to education. Education. Yes. Yes, I'm turning now to education.
Education emerged as the biggest beneficiary of the 2026-2027 budget presented by Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi, receiving 784.5 billion shillings, about 16% of the national budget, with funding directed towards teacher recruitment, basic education, and university financing. The Teacher Service Commission alone accounts for 424.3 billion shillings of that allocation.
Therefore, Mr. Speaker, it is not correct that this government, this administration is defunding education. In fact, we are funding it more.
Security was another major winner, with defense allocated 252.1 billion, the National Police Service 144.7 billion, the National Intelligence Service 64.1 billion shillings, Internal Security and National Administration 63.9 billion shillings, and the Prison Service 42.6 billion shillings, as village elders received 3.9 billion shillings as stipend allocation to strengthen local administrative capacity.
I have also proposed 3.9 billion for stipend to village elders for the first time, something that has been talked about for years, to enhance local administrative capacities.
Health secured 177.2 billion shillings to advance universal health coverage, while counties received 428 billion shillings in equitable share allocations, representing 21% of the most recently audited revenues, well above the constitutional minimum of 15%.
Agriculture remains central to better and Kenya's long-term prosperity. It supports more than 2/3 of Kenyan households and generates significant employment multiplier effects, especially among groups historically excluded from modern economic opportunities.
Agriculture received 64 billion shillings, including 18 billion shillings for fertilizer subsidies and 2 billion shillings for seed subsidies, while housing and urban development secured 143.7 billion to support affordable housing, social housing, and institutional housing projects.
This package will include 18.6 billion under the Kenya Urban Program, 50.6 billion for construction of affordable housing units, 20.9 billion for social housing units, and 20.2 billion for the institutional housing.
Despite receiving 220.4 billion shillings covering road construction, rehabilitation and maintenance, roads ranked behind education, security and health overall budget priorities. The government is increasingly relying on private capital and public-private partnerships to bridge an estimated $5 billion annual infrastructure financing gap. Hibak Saeed for TV47.
Still on Malta's budget, the government has presented its financing plan for the 2026-2027 financial year budget, projecting total expenditure of 4.8 trillion shillings against expected revenue collections of 3.63 trillion shillings. The results deficit of 1.146 trillion shillings will be financed through a combination of domestic and external borrowing alongside investments mobilized under the public-private partnership framework. Our reporter Michelle Mwangi with the details.
The government has projected total expenditure of 4.82 trillion shillings against expected revenue of 3.63 trillion shillings, leaving a deficit of 1.5 trillion shillings that will require alternative financing to sustain public services and development projects.
These investments will be complemented by strategic transmission infrastructure projects to strengthen and expand the national grid.
To bridge the deficit, the government plans to rely on both domestic and external borrowing. Net domestic borrowing is projected at 1.03 trillion shillings, while external borrowing will contribute 116.2 billion shillings. Private sector collaboration through the public-private partnership framework will also play a key role.
And in this financial year, we have so far mobilized approximately 96 billion private capital investment in PPPs. This being the CRBC/NSSF investment for the Rironi Gilgil.
Beyond easing pressure on the national treasury, the PPP framework is expected to attract private sector expertise and capital into the implementation of strategic projects, particularly in infrastructure.
Public-private partnerships enable the government to harness private sector innovation, technical expertise, operational efficiency, and risk-sharing arrangements that enhance project delivery while preserving fiscal sustainability.
Figures presented to Parliament show the government is committed to accelerating domestic revenue mobilization and tightening expenditure controls in order to reduce borrowing dependence over the medium term.
Building on this momentum, the government targets to mobilize at least 70 billion through PPP investments in the financial year 26-27. Across the energy, transport, water, housing, health, and digital infrastructure sectors.
The Kenya Revenue Authority has expanded the use of its electronic tax invoice management system, with more than 655,000 taxpayers now onboarded onto the platform.
Mr. Speaker,
the government says the move has significantly enhanced transaction visibility and is strengthening value-added tax compliance. Financing next year's budget will therefore depend on a combination of tax revenue, borrowing, and private sector investment as the government seeks to balance development ambition with long-term fiscal sustainability. Michelle Mwangi, TV47, Nairobi.
The country's security sector has received a combined allocation of 567.4 billion Kenya shillings in the proposed 4.8 trillion budget for the fiscal year 2026-2027, trailing only the education sector's 784.5 billion shillings in national spending priorities. And as Samira Mohammed now reports, the Ministry of Defense emerged as the single largest beneficiary among security votes, receiving 252.1 billion Kenya shillings, with the National Intelligence Service allocated 64.1 billion shillings, reflecting the government's growing emphasis on intelligence-led security operations.
The 2026-2027 budget lays out the government's strategic spending priorities as Kenya heads into an election year. Security and education dominate the proposed 4.8 trillion shilling spending plan for the financial year 2026 to 2027. Security agencies are among the biggest recipients in the proposed budget, with Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi describing a safe and stable environment as, quote, indispensable for investment, trade and economic growth.
Improving security, which is of concern to all of us. Mr. Speaker, a safe and stable environment is indispensable for investment, trade and economic growth.
The Ministry of Defence is the single largest beneficiary among security votes, receiving 252.1 billion shillings. The National Police Service has been allocated 144.7 billion shillings, while the National Intelligence Service receives 64.1 billion shillings. The State Department for Internal Security and National Administration will receive 63.9 billion shillings, with the Prison Service allocated 42.6 billion shillings.
Propose 252.1 billion for defense, 144.7 billion for the National Police Service, 64 billion for the National Intelligence Service, 63.9 billion for Internal Security and the National Administration, and 42.6 billion for prison services. And these allocations strengthen national security and uphold the rule of law.
Specific security investments include 13 billion shillings for leasing of police motor vehicles and 7 billion shillings for the police modernization program. An additional 1.3 billion shillings has been set aside for the construction of modernization of national forensic facilities.
Specific security interventions or investments include 13 billion to cater for leasing of police motor vehicles, 7 billion for police modernization program, 1 billion for construction and modernization of national forensic facilities.
Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi says the budget deliberately avoids new taxes or rate increases, instead focusing on broadening the tax base and improving collection efficiency. Tax measures expected to yield an additional 98.9 billion shillings in revenue. Samira Mohammed for TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Samira Mohammed, for that report. Now, the chair of the Finance and National Planning Committee, Kuria Kimani, has urged Kenyans not to worry about the 2026-2027 budget deficit of 1.1 trillion shillings. The MP says the government has elaborate plans on how to cover that amount. It comes against the backdrop of the 4.8 trillion shillings ambitious budget at a time when Kenyans are feeling the pinch of high taxes. Meanwhile, Kiharu MP Dede Nyoro argues that the budget presented is too ambitious for Kenyans, yet the money is not circulating in the economy. Nyoro, while speaking to journalists, says Kenya has a tendency of pulling the budget too high during electioneering period. Treasury CS John Mbadi presented a budget of 4.8 trillion shillings to Kenyans before Parliament this evening.
I think that I have taken a bigger loan, but if I've taken a bigger loan and my pay slip can accommodate a bigger loan, then that is okay. And so therefore there is no reason to worry for the 1.1 trillion shillings. It is still within the best practice in terms of a debt as a percent, not debt, in terms of deficit as a percentage of GDP.
Na hiyo deficit tunatarajia kwamba itapatikana kupitia kwa treasury bills, itapatikana vile vile kupitia kwa domestic borrowing. Na kama vile unavyojua hivi sasa our CBR, the base renting rate yetu ya Kenya imeenda chini, kumaanisha kwamba the interest rates za benki zimeshuka chini.
You kick the can down the path. So you need the money now, somebody else later will pay. So in that respect, there is money you can see clearly in the budget for development. But remember, there is some off-the-book loans which are also being channeled towards development, for example, securitization and the rest. So there is that balance. The second thing, in terms of re-election and in terms of an election year, you also see an escalation of budget in what you'd call campaign monies.
Pia inaangazia sana mahitaji ambayo yatasaidia kubadilisha nchi yetu. Kwa mambo ya miundo msingi, tunajenga mabarabara, airport yetu ya Nairobi na airports zingine, ili tuweze tukabadilisha nchi yetu, kwa sababu ukitaka kubadilisha nchi lazima uwe na miundo msingi ambayo ni bora zaidi.
The leaders of government, led by the majority leader, have criticized the united opposition in their recent remarks regarding the 4.8 trillion shillings budget presented before Parliament by Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi. The leaders further insist the budget is mwananchi-oriented as they observed a moment of silence for the late ODM party leader Raila Odinga, whom they termed a champion of the economy.
Politics found its way in the 2026-2027 budget reading by the Treasury Cabinet Secretary. Chants of power were loudly heard as CS Mbadi took the floor of the National Assembly. The National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah criticized the opposition brigade led by Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka over their people's budget, which they presented to public yesterday, terming the united opposition clueless.
If you live in the past, you cannot forge or fashion an agenda to move the country forward. As we welcome the Cabinet Secretary, I took liberty, Honorable Speaker, to inform those confused leaders out there to stop living in the past, to come to the present world under the new constitution, where Parliament and indeed the National Assembly is one with the power of the past.
Ichung'wah's sentiments were echoed by Junet Mohammed, who led the House on chanting ODM, praising the broad-based arrangement on propelling the economy.
ODM. Can you repeat after me? ODM.
Junet says the economy wouldn't be better, as he termed the opposition as baseless opposers.
They have spoken about the finance bill. First, they said that the finance bill has a clause that says all freehold titles will be changed to leasehold titles. That lie has been demystified. Now they have nothing else to say.
Former National Assembly Speaker Justin Biden Muturi had criticized President William Ruto for being away while the budget is being read. Speaker Wetangula, in President's defense, says it's not a requirement for him to be present during such occasion.
The President of the country is under no obligation to attend Parliament on the day when the Cabinet Secretary for Treasury and Planning comes not to read a budget, but to make a statement and give to the country his revenue-raising measures.
Meanwhile, Kiharu Member of Parliament Ndindi Nyoro says the country might sink into a debt if the government won't seek any alternative means of dealing with the ballooning debt.
Out of the 4.8 trillion Kenya shillings budget, it is important to know that we continue to dig the hole of borrowing even deeper than before. We anticipate in the current budget to borrow to a tune of 5.5% of our GDP, which is the highest level in the previous years, and especially at the beginning of the financial year.
While criticism continues in regards to the budget 2026-2027, now a showdown is expected before the National Assembly, with members of the opposition vowing to shoot down the Finance Bill 2026. Elizabeth Mutuko, TV47, Parliament Buildings, Nairobi.
Very own Elizabeth Mutuku with that report. Now, as Kenyans grapple with the realities of a challenging economy, all eyes for the better part of Thursday turned to Parliament buildings, where Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi unveiled the 2026-2027 national budget. But before the figures, the taxes and the promises, there was a journey, a carefully choreographed march from Karen to Parliament, culminating in one of the most significant moments of his tenure. Our reporter Mike Kagwongo traces Mbadi's historic day.
Okay, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. The road to Kenya's 2026-2027 budget presentation did not begin inside Parliament. It began shortly after 8 o'clock in the morning in Karen, Nairobi, as Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi set off for what will become one of the defining moments of his public service career. Along Gong Road and the Southern Bypass, Mbadi stole brief glances at newspaper headlines. Perhaps a final moment of reflection before stepping onto the national stage.
Yes, I've actually been a proponent of proper planning. And I have said before that the problem that we have in our budgeting process is that we are not linking plans to budgets. And that is why in my speech today, you will hear a lot of emphasis on planning and what we intend to do and introduce the planning bill. Remember, in this country, we have laws governing public finance management. We have laws governing procurement. We have laws guiding or guiding on asset management. But we don't have any law on national planning.
By 9 a.m., he had arrived at the National Treasury building, where consultative meetings and last-minute briefings occupied the better part of his morning, as officials fine-tuned the details of a budget carrying the hopes, expectations and scrutiny of millions of Kenyans. Then came the symposium. At exactly 2 p.m., Mbadi emerged, clutching the Treasury briefcase. Only the second time he has carried the powerful symbol since assuming the country's most critical economic docket. Security was tight, with a notable presence of female police officers guarding the precincts. Nearby stood a motorcade led by Peugeot 508, replacing the traditional Volkswagen Passat that had been associated with the previous administration's austerity measures. The short journey of less than half a kilometer to Parliament took nearly 20 minutes. As security personnel and a swarm of journalists escorted the Treasury chief to the National Assembly. And as he finally stepped into the chamber, the moment ceased to be about the journey. It became about the responsibility of charting Kenya's financial future, one budget speech at a time. The majestic walk by CS John Mbadi from National Treasury to Parliament buildings here in Nairobi marks a significant historic moment for this country, as President William Ruto's government intends to collect more than 3.6 trillion shillings in the next financial year. Mike Kagwango, TV47, from National Treasury, Nairobi.
Thank you, Mike Kagwango, for that story. Now, Kenyans today closely followed the budget reading, raising pressing concerns around the cost of living, from fuel costs to basic commodities. Many said the economic burden on ordinary households remains heavy, and they hoped the government would reduce taxes on essential goods and bring down the cost of fuel, as food prices remain stubbornly high and transport costs continue to rise. Many also expressed hope that inflation figures would finally reflect the reality felt in markets, homes and small businesses across the country.
Area zenye ziko mzuri, watumana wameongeza pesa upande ya masomo na upande ya afya. Ile kitu tungependa kwamba wafanye ni kuweka pesa pia kwa upande ya agriculture, na ijulikane imeenda kufanya nini.
Hii budget ya leo iko juu, ienda ikawa labda serikali ya Kenya itakopa pesa mingi, so ile tax ambayo itapatikana sana kwa wananchi wa kawaida itaenda juu.
Bajeti ndio imesomwa, lakini Kenya hatujafikia kile kiwango cha kuwa na bajeti kubwa. Tungeomba serikali ya Ruto iweze kupunguza vitu zingine pia. Kama hizi pesa zinazopewa CS, hizo pesa huwa zinakuwa nyingi sana, na hizo pesa huwa hatujasikia hata CS moja akona scandal. Kwa hivyo rais, tungeomba pia hizo pesa zao ziweze kuangaliwa, na kitu nyingine pia rais, muweze kuangalia mambo ya transport, especially mafuta.
Watu walemavu na wazee wote ambao ni wakongwe, kuna watu ambao wanapata hii pesa ya inua jamii. Watu wengine wanapata na watu wengine hakuna, na wengine wote ni wazee. Unapata mzee miaka 70 hajapata hiyo pesa, hajajiandikisha. Kwa hivyo kama iko kwa hii budget ambayo inasomwa na waziri, hii pesa mingi ambayo inasomwa na waziri, kama iko hiyo pesa itolewe kwa kila mwezi.
Hatujui tutakuwa aje ndio to make sure ile budget imetengwa pale pia imewafikia wenye wanafaa.
Still on the same matter, we are now joined by our reporter from Naivasha, Willie Dennis Njiru. Willie Dennis Njiru, what are the residents of Naivasha saying in regards to the 2026-2027 budget? Willie?
Thank you very much, my colleague Kamau in our studios in the capital city, coming to you live from Naivasha CBD, where we continue getting views and receiving views regarding to what has been the biggest budget of this country ever since Kenya independent over 60 years up to this moment. And I'm delighted to have some guests or locals with me here who will be telling us what they think about this big budget and allocation to the health and the education sector. Nieleze jina lako. Budget imeshasomwa hivi leo. Una yapi ya kusema kuhusiana na hili?
Kwa majina yangu naitwa Caroline, mkaaji wa Naivasha. Mimi nauliza allocation mingi yenye imepewa ni education na hospitali. Swali yangu ni hiyo pesa yote yenye imeallocatiwa education itafika aje? Tuko sure aje itafika shule? Ama ni tuanze tena kwa mtoto anaenda shule anafukuzwa, anaenda shule na yet tunaambiwa budget imeallocatiwa education. Hiyo ndio swali yangu. Ingine ni kuhusu health. Pia health imepewa budget kubwa sana. Sasa tunauliza itakuwa hii ni sha leo inafanya, kesho ifanyi, na tumeambiwa ati iko sawa. Tumepewa pesa mingi kabisa. Yangu ni kwa leo ni hayo tu.
Acha tupate jamaa mwingine hapa karibia kidogo. Tueleze jina lako. Bajeti imeshasomwa hivi leo. Sijui una yapi ya kusema.
Kwa majina naitwa Edwin. Na ningesema hivi. Bajeti imesomwa leo, sikatai. Lakini tukiangalia allocation kubwa ni ya masomo. Na hiyo masomo kusema kweli watu wengi wako huku nje wamesoma. Naona nafasi za kazi. Sasa tunauliza hiyo pesa yote ni CBC inaenda, ni band ama ni campus inaenda, ama inaenda kufanya nini? Kitu kingine naongea kama kijana, tafadhali serikali, wakati ambapo mlipatia education pesa mingi, tafadhali tuangalieni kama si vijana. Maana saa hizi kusema ukweli hakuna kazi Kenya. Tunajaribu, tunasoma, tunahitimu, tunapata hizo mabarua, na huku kwa ground hakuna kazi. Kama ingekuwa allocation tu kuna pesa ya vijana, ya kusema vijana wafungue biashara fulani, ama ya kusupport more youth kwa creativity, vitu kama maandamano, kuharibu mali, kufanya nini hazingekuwa. Tena hii budget naona ni 4.8 trillion kusema ukweli. Wakati ambapo watu walikuwa wanakuja serikalini tulisikia kwamba tutapunguza hii cost. Itakuwaje budget imefika 4.8? Nimeangalia deni yenye tunalipa, kusema ukweli Kenya itaendelea wakati gani? Nimeangalia allocation ya roads. Barabara ni mbovu. Hata kama rais amejaribu, lakini barabara bado ni mbovu. Kwa hivyo mimi naomba tu kama kijana, tafadhali serikali. Najua kila mwaka mwezi wa 6 lazima mtusomee budget. Lakini tuangalieni sisi kama majenzi. Tafadhali, maana tuko njaa.
Asante sana kwa muda wenu. Kamau, there you go. Just a few touch bases here with locals on what exactly transpired this afternoon at the August House. We still receive a lot of echoes from locals here regarding the budget, and they say actually it was a good budget, but now the question remains, will the money intended for the purpose meet the obligation? From me here in Naivasha in Nakuru County, I take it back to you so that you can continue with the bulletin.
Our very own Willie Dennis coming to you live from Naivasha. And we would also love to hear from you in regards to the 2026-2027 budget. Engage with us on our social media pages. Facebook, we are TV47KE. Instagram is TV47KE. TikTok is TV47KE. And our SMS line remains 2207. We would love to hear what you think about the 2026-2027 budget. Now, moving on, Jubilee Deputy Party Leader Dr. Fred Matiang'i has accused the government of overtaxing Kenyans while failing to deliver essential services. Speaking in Kitutu, Churches South, Matiang'i said the rising tax burden is worsening the cost of living, arguing that Kenyans' economic challenges stem from poor leadership and misplaced priorities rather than a lack of revenue. His remarks come as Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi presented the 4.8 trillion shillings budget for the 2026-2027 financial year. Matiang'i also called for political tolerance and urged leaders in the Gusii region to unite and focus on development.
Na hii kodi kila wakati, kodi ya rent itoke 7.5 iende 10. Kodi kwa M-Pesa, kodi kwa kila kitu. Na huyu mwananchi anaitisha, hiyo ndio analipa kodi housing, ndio analipa kodi ya SHA, ndio analipa kodi kila kitu.
Let's take a breather. We'll be back shortly with more news. Stay with us.
For months, teams have been battling out for the Mozart Cup 2026, and now the finals are here. A thrilling showdown between Tusker FC and Kenya Police FC. The showdown will be held on Sunday, 14th June 2026 at Kwale Stadium. TV47 will bring you the Mozart Cup finals live from Kwale Stadium with live commentary on Radio 47. There will be lots of entertainment from Prince Inda. Don't miss the live action. Sunday, 14th June 2026.
Indulge in that moment. With every spoonful of Delamere real fruit yogurt.
Do you know what's inside that prepackaged food? Those unhealthy ultra-processed foods high in sugar, salt or unhealthy fats can lead to diseases.
According to the Ministry of Health, approximately 39% of all deaths in Kenya are as a result of non-communicable diseases such as obesity, diabetes, cancer, and high blood pressure. The foods and drinks we consume every day can affect our health more than we realize.
Clear information on packages about what's in our food can help us have a healthy diet. From the Food Policy Coalition Kenya.
Fanikisha, empowering women, fueling prosperity through networking, entrepreneurial training, and financial support. Start your Fanikisha journey with equity today.
Indomie, furahia mlo mtamu.
Azam TV, your favorite pay TV, just got even better. Effective 1st March 2026, we have added 5 amazing new TV channels to keep you entertained day and night. AMC Movies and Nolly Africa for the best of Nollywood movies and series. Music Box Hits and Music Box Dance for non-stop music hits and dance. And Manchester United TV for football fans. More movies, more music, more sports. All in one place.
Notice to senior school principals. The Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, KICD, wishes to inform all senior school principals that the first phase of grade 10 textbook distribution has been completed using enrollment data previously provided by the Ministry of Education. To ensure that every grade 10 learner receives one textbook per subject, all principals are requested to submit: number 1, the actual number of grade 10 learners enrolled in each subject; number 2, the number of textbooks received for each subject. Submit your information through the following code. For more assistance, email bookdistribution@kicd.ac.ke or call 0733 762 412. Deadline for submission is 19th June 2026. Schools that have already submitted the data need not resubmit. The Kenyan government is committed to ensuring that every learner has a textbook in every subject.
KICD.
Welcome back. Now, tensions between the United States and Iran have flared once again, with Iran announcing the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, a critical maritime passageway and major route for global oil shipments. The move has sent shockwaves across global energy markets. Oil prices have risen by more than $2 a barrel after Iran announced it was closing the Strait of Hormuz.
The U.S. Central Command has dismissed claims by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps that the Strait of Hormuz is closed, affirming that commercial ships continue to transit in and out of the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. President Donald Trump wrote on his Truth social media that at some point in the not too distant future, the U.S. will take control of Kurg Island and other oil infrastructure sites, assuming total control of Iran's oil and gas markets, much as it has with Venezuela.
As soon as this war is over, I can say it now, something you didn't know. We've been taking out millions of barrels of oil. Nobody knows it. You know who doesn't know about it? Iran, until right now.
IRGC spokesperson Hossein Mohebi, in a statement on X, insisted that the IRGC will respond to the enemy's threats on the battlefield with strength as it has done in the past. The Strait of Hormuz, located between Oman and Iran, is one of the world's most important oil transit routes. Any closure immediately shakes global markets because it threatens the free flow of oil supplies and major producers. Back home, Kenyans are watching anxiously. Energy Cabinet Secretary Opiyo Wandayi on Wednesday assured the country that the government has secured petroleum deliveries through the end of July 2026, insulating Kenya from immediate shortages. He also promised that diesel prices would be lowered in the next monthly review, a move expected to ease transport, farming, and manufacturing costs.
Fuel deliveries have already been secured through the end of July this year, ensuring uninterrupted supply and shielding Kenyans from shortages and the disruptions experienced elsewhere.
However, this reprieve may be short-lived if the strait remains closed for an extended period. Global oil prices could surge, eroding the benefits of government measures. Matatu and bus fares could rise if global oil prices spike, despite the government short-term cushioning. Higher global diesel costs would increase the expense of transporting goods, potentially pushing up the price of essentials such as food. Manufacturing firms may also face renewed pressure, putting job security and competitiveness at risk. While Wandayi's assurances provide short-term relief, Kenya's reliance on imported petroleum means global shocks are quickly felt locally. For now, Kenyans can expect stability until July, but the closure of the Strait of Hormuz underscores how vulnerable the country remains to global geopolitical tensions. If the standoff between the US and Iran escalates further, the ripple effects could undo recent gains in lowering electricity and fuel costs.
In other news, as officers from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI, continue with the investigations in Mwingi, Kitui County regarding the discovery of bodies secretly buried in the area, the number of victims could rise further. This follows reports that 3 more bodies were exhumed overnight, bringing the total number of recovered bodies to 7. The bodies have since been transported to Nairobi for further examination.
Residents of Mwingi continue to live in fear following the discovery of mass graves in the area, amid concerns that more bodies could still be buried. According to Kenyan human rights activist Hussein Khalid, 3 additional bodies have been exhumed from the site, raising the total number of bodies recovered in the area to 7.
We have confirmed that the city mortuary last night around 2 a.m. received 7 bodies from the mass grave in Mwingi. The 4 bodies are the ones that were reported widely, but it appears like there were other 3 bodies that were also picked from around the same location.
According to Khalid, all 7 bodies have already been transported to Nairobi, where investigations have been launched to establish the cause of the deaths.
We have been in touch with the Nairobi Funeral Home officials. They have taken the fingerprints, and we are hoping that through the National Registration Bureau, we'll be able to identify these bodies.
Residents say cases of killings have been reported in the area for some time, raising concerns about security and deepening fear among the people of Mwingi in Kitui County.
So we are asking the security to be beefed up at Mwingi and very fast investigation so that we may know who are the victims.
The security agencies. What is the role of security agencies in ensuring that they protect the lives of Kenyans wherever they are? These are questions that we are demanding answers to.
Of the 7 bodies recovered from the site, 6 are male, 1 is female. All the bodies have been preserved at the city mortuary in Nairobi after being transferred from Mwingi Level 4 Hospital mortuary.
Our concern is on the mass graves that are coming up in different parts of this country. Just a few weeks ago, it was Kericho. Now it is Mwingi.
The DCI investigators have cordoned off the area and declared it a crime scene as they continue investigations aimed at establishing the circumstances surrounding the deaths and identifying those responsible.
Elsewhere, a family in Nanyuki is in mourning after their 17-year-old son was allegedly shot dead during protest in Liki village. As tensions rise over a proposed Ebola quarantine facility, residents are demanding answers, justice, and an immediate halt to the project. Faith Wangari reports.
He was 17 years old, the firstborn in a family of 4, Sylvester Mwigai.
Mimi nataka haki ya mtoto wangu wa Zingizo Secondary. Mimi nataka haki.
Mwigai was allegedly shot in the head on Tuesday, June 9th, during violent confrontations between protesters and police in Liki village, Nanyuki, as demonstrations against the proposed Ebola quarantine facility entered the second week.
Sai sitalipwa, nimetoka kibarua sitalipwa. Watoto wangu watakula nini? Huyu ni mtoto ameniwachia hapa mochari. Nimkoe. Mimi nataka haki.
The family is now demanding justice. They are urging the government to immediately halt the project and listen to concerns of Nanyuki residents, saying too many lives have already been lost, even as court orders suspending the facility remain in force.
Juzi walikuwa wanarusha tia gasi kuko kwetu proti. Na kuna watoto wadogo wanatumia nguvu kuliko. Tunataka haki.
Ruto, wewe unaona ni watoto wewe, hata wewe uko na mtoto. Hebu simama tuongee. Simamisha hii maandamano.
The Independent Medical Legal Unit has urged both the Judiciary and an Independent Police and Oversight Authority to conduct thorough and impartial investigations and ensure justice is served.
We've also been able to document 31 arrests, but I'm glad that the courts have been able to grant those individuals bail.
At the High Court, the legal battle continues. The court has maintained orders suspending the implementation of the facility and directed the government to fully disclose all agreements, approvals, risk assessments, and operational protocols related to the project. Faith Wangari, TV47.
Sir Julius Bitok has officially taken over as Principal Secretary for Tourism, pledging close collaboration with the private sector to help achieve Kenya's target of 5 million international visitor arrivals. Speaking during the handover ceremony in Nairobi, Bitok said success in the tourism sector depends on strong collaboration between government and stakeholders, emphasizing that his office remains open to the private sector. Outgoing PS John Olol Tua congratulated on the achievements during his tenure, including improved marketing, MICE infrastructure development, and tourism policy reforms.
Thank you. We must open up our country to attract more tourists. Because what drives the world now are two things: technology and services. What drives the economy of the world right now is technology and services. So when you have the two, you are likely to succeed. So I want to say that I just wanted to jog your mind a little bit on the place of tourism in our country. So as I come here to join this team, and I want to believe we are going to work together to make tourism really the in thing. I know the PSC has done a lot. He has really led a lot of teams, led a lot of work, but I come in to pick up from there.
Kenyan university students have been challenged to take a leading role in the fight against corruption by embracing integrity and rejecting dishonest practices. Speaking during the launch of the Ethics and Integrity Club at Mount Kenya University, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Chairperson Dr. David Oginde warned that corruption, academic fraud, and dishonesty continue to undermine the country's moral and economic development. The event, themed Rebuilding Trust Through Ethical Leadership, brought together leaders from government, academia, and anti-corruption sector who called on young people to champion ethical values in society. The MKU Principal for Corporate Services and Director of Partnerships and Linkages, Professor Peter Wanderi, said the university has introduced an Ethics, Integrity and Responsible Citizenship unit to promote value-based education and nurture ethical leaders.
Corruption may promise quick rewards, but it destroys nation. It is sad, but recent surveys reveal that many young people do not see harm in dishonest shortcuts like tax evasion, corruption, fake certificates. We are seeing an upsurge in plagiarism among university students. In EACC, we are overwhelmed by the number of fake certificates that we have to investigate. Some of people who are very highly placed. Why don't you want to go to the university and get a genuine certificate?
We need this common unit, and we need to talk of integrity all the time and also do it. And I was very happy that even the MKU anthem talked of integrity, and this is part of it. The expected outcomes from the ongoing EACC CLIF MKU collaborative activities include, among others, increased awareness, commitment, and institutional collaboration on ethics and integrity initiatives.
To be able to have us approach change in a manner that it may not be disastrous to us, it will be important if we can consider our ability to change our thinking, to change our approach, to approach things differently, and like I said, to see the cup as half full, not as half empty.
It's time for business news. The European Union delegation to Kenya and the Equity Group Foundation have entered into a partnership aimed at expanding access to quality education, strengthening human capital development, and widening global learning opportunities for high-achieving students in Kenya and across the region. The agreements were signed by European Union Ambassador to Kenya, Her Excellency Henriette Geiger, and Dr. James Mwangi, Executive Chairman of Equity Group Foundation and Group Managing Director and CEO of Equity Group. The cooperation agreement formalizes a shared commitment to expanding access to quality education, nurturing talent, and connecting young Kenyans to transformative learning pathways both within Kenya and across Europe. Through this agreement, the partners will collaborate to promote awareness of the EU's education opportunities among equity leaders, program scholars, and increase access to European academic opportunities. CB Group has disbursed 48.8 billion shillings in green financing loans to support environmentally sustainable projects across renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, clean transport, green buildings, and water management. According to the group's 2025 sustainability report themed Transitioning Economies, part of the funds was independently verified as climate eligible, while the bank also screened nearly 588 billion shillings in transactions under its environmental and social safeguards across East Africa. The lender says it has now surpassed its targets of allocating 25% of total lending to green projects, reaching 25.84% in 2025, up from 21.6% the previous year. Elsewhere, Kenya Wine Agencies Limited (KWAL) has launched the Form Imejipa County consumer promotion with over 35 million shillings in cash and prizes up for grabs. Nationwide campaign will reward consumers with a range of prizes including cash rewards, motorbikes, smartphones, laptops, shopping vouchers, and content creator kits. To be part of the campaign, consumers are required to purchase a 250 ml or 750 ml bottle of county brandy, scratch the label to reveal an entry code, and submit it via the toll-free USSD code provided. The promotion is expected to run until August 31st.
Tumeka 35 million kwenye hii campaign, na hii campaign itachukua miezi 3. So tuseme katika hii time ile kitu tunatafuta ni kureward watu wengi, kwa sababu 35 million si pesa kidogo. But ile kitu tunaangalia ni tutawapatia vitu ambavyo vitawasaidia kwa maisha. Tunataka tuwapatie airtime, hakuna mtu hataki airtime. Tunataka tuwapatie airtime, ni kitu utaongea na marafiki zako, utaongea na familia, kama uko na biashara utatuma message. Tunawapatia vitu kama motorbike, nduthi ni kitu utatumia kwa maisha yako, unaweza hata patiane kupatie biashara. Tunapatiana vitu kama pool table.
There's a lot of room for more policy development, and we were very encouraged by the fact that the president himself at the beginning of this year announced that he wanted to crack down on illicit. We believe that is a very positive step. There is a lot to be done to ensure that Kenyans are protected from a public health perspective as well as from a manufacturing perspective.
That's all we had for you in business news. Now let's get sporty.
TV47 Sports, brought to you by Mozart. Usicheze chini. Mozart inasupport talent kutoka mtaani hadi viwanjani. Wachezaji na community pia lazima wa hydrate. Maji safi ni game changer mtaani. Usicheze chini. Mozart.
Kenya's sports sector is set for a major financial boost after the National Treasury proposed a more than 50% increase in funding for the 2026-2027 financial year. Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi has recommended an allocation of 25.2 billion shillings to the sports fund, up from 13.5 billion shillings in the current budget. A move expected to accelerate preparations for the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations and strengthen sports developments across the country.
in stimulating tourism growth, sports, culture, recreation, and arts. Mr. Speaker, sports and arts are vital for national identity, youth empowerment, and economic diversification. We will therefore promote sports at all levels, enforce international anti-doping standards, and commercial and indigenous knowledge to create livelihood opportunities. To harness national talent and promote Kenya as a regional cultural hub, I propose 45.6 billion for sports, culture, recreation, and tourism, including 25.2 billion for sports, arts and social development fund, 14.3 billion for the tourism fund, and these allocations will stimulate jobs, community development, and foreign exchange earnings.
The wait is over as the biggest sporting event on the planet gets underway tonight. The FIFA World Cup 2026 kicks off in Mexico, launching a month-long football spectacle that will span 3 countries, feature a record 48 teams and more than 100 matches. Duncan Mutua previews the build-up to the global showpiece, the stars and the stakes as the road to the World Cup glory begins.
The wait is finally over. Tonight, the world's eyes turn to Mexico City. The greatest football showpiece is here. The 2026 FIFA World Cup kicks off as South Africa face host Mexico.
And as a team, we're looking forward to the game. We're excited and we know how much it means to everyone back home and ourselves. And yeah, we're looking forward to the game.
For the first time, the expanded tournament unfolds across the United States, Canada, and Mexico.
It's amazing because you don't think of soccer. We use the word football, soccer, right? But you don't think of soccer.
It's the biggest World Cup in history. 48 nations, 104 matches, billions of viewers, and billions of dollars in play. But before the first whistle, controversy has already stolen the spotlight.
Well, we're working on it very closely to make sure the right people come into our country.
From geopolitics and immigration debates to security fears and soaring ticket prices.
The reality of the matter is that in every country there are governments. Try to get into the UK, into Germany, into Switzerland without a visa. Try to get a visa if you are from a certain country. It's not easy.
And closer to home, outrage after Somali referee Omar Abdulkadir Atan was dropped from the officiating roster, sparking debate across Africa. Africa arrives with renewed belief. Morocco lead the charge after their historic 2022 run, joined by Senegal, Nigeria, Egypt, Ivory Coast, South Africa, Cape Verde, Algeria, Tunisia, and DR Congo, all carrying the hopes of millions dreaming of an African finalist. Standing in their way, football's heavyweights, defending champions Argentina, star-studded France, 5-time winners Brazil, and the ever-dangerous Spain, Germany, and Portugal. England's faithful, as always, dare to believe football is coming home. And perhaps the biggest storyline of all.
My son is a big fan of Ronaldo, wherever Ronaldo is here. Ronaldo.
The final World Cup journey of Cristiano Ronaldo. Fans worldwide hope for one last magical run as he chases the only trophy missing from his legendary career. From controversy off the pitch to dreams of glory on it, the FIFA World Cup 2026 is underway. For Africa, it's a chance to make history. For the Giants, a battle for supremacy. And for Ronaldo, football's eternal icon, it could be the last dance on the biggest stage of all. Duncan Mutua, TV47 Sports.
Mexico will host South Africa tonight at 10 p.m. East African time in the opening match of the 2026 FIFA World Cup at the iconic Estadio Azteca. The match marks South Africa's return to the World Cup for the first time since 2010, when they hosted the tournament and faced Mexico in the opening game, which ended in a 1-1 draw. The 2026 FIFA World Cup is being co-hosted by Mexico, Canada and the United States. The expanded tournament features 48 teams and 104 matches, making it the biggest World Cup in history. Host Mexico will be aiming to make a strong start in front of their home fans as they kick off the month-long global football spectacle against Bafana Bafana. And closer home, thousands of Somalis gathered at Mogadishu Stadium on Wednesday to welcome Somali referee Omar Artan. This comes days after the FIFA match official was denied entry to the United States ahead of the FIFA World Cup co-hosted by Mexico, Canada and the US. Many locals described him as a national source of pride and symbol of achievement for Somali football. The US State Department said there were vetting concerns with the 34-year-old who won the 2025 CAF Men's Referee of the Year award. Artan is the first Somali named among FIFA World Cup referees and the first Somali referee to officiate a CAF Champions League match. The World Cup kicks off tonight in Mexico, with hosts taking on South Africa at 10 p.m. Kenyan time. And finally, the winners of the 4th edition of the Lukenya University Long Distance Race were today honored at an award ceremony held at the university. The champions in the 42-kilometer and 21-kilometer categories received cash prizes of 500,000 Kenya shillings each. The annual event seeks to promote environmental conservation through tree planting while nurturing athletics talent across the country.
Bia 42 kilometers na weather haikuwa favorable sana na bado haikuwa mbaya, though kulikuwa na jua sana, lakini nilijaribu tu venye ningeweza.
Yes, ni challenge kwa mwanariadha, full day inakuwa challenge. Facilities za kutrain kama huna management ya kukupea facility pia inakuwa una strain, so zitanisaidia sana kwa kununua facilities na kuweza kufeed.
A great day. We really thank God for today because it really marks the end of the 4th edition of our marathon by presentation of checks to our winners. We have so far distributed 4 million Kenya shillings for winnings to all the winners in all the different categories. That is 21-kilometer male and female and 42-kilometer male and female. So 200,000 shillings to each of the 21-kilometer winners and 500,000, $500,000 to each of the top 42 kilometers.
TV47 Sports, brought to you by Mozart. Usicheze chini. Mozart inasupport talent kutoka mtaani hadi viwanjani. Wachezaji na community pia lazima wa hydrate. Maji safi ni game changer mtaani. Usicheze chini. Mozart.
And that brings us to the end of tonight's bulletin. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us as usual. Have yourself a blessed night. My name is Peter Kamau. Our sign interpreter is Catherine Simaroy. Till next time.